I wanted to mention, not East Bay or Speed Weeks related, but the news,
East
East Alabama
Alabama.
Motor
I knew
Speedway.
that's where you were going.
We knew ahead of time, um, and was aware that it had sold. Um, and I first heard the news without all the context and was really worried because I knew that there had been some non-racing entities interested in it. And but I was happy to learn that is someone who intends on keeping it a racetrack. The Thomas family has owned that thing for years. Um, Melanie and Richard that had been running it. Melanie's one of the Thomas daughters, and her husband Richard were have been running it that we worked with this year on our two series events there, our one series event, and then the National 100 that was a non-points race. They were great to work with, and um, did a great job, I think, the last couple of years bringing it back. And but it was a lot of work on them, being they live in Missouri and literally were flying in for every race weekend and then flying home and being have to be back at work on Monday. So, I knew that was coming, and but I'm definitely excited and happy to see that it's someone who not only intends to keep it a racetrack, but from what I'm hearing, intends on investing in it and growing it and really trying to help continue what they started in the new era of East Alabama Motor Speedway. So haven't spoken with the new ownership group yet, but I have been just kind of informed that they intend to continue on as planned. So anyway,
That's good
excited about
news.
that.
It's
Yep.
good, because you hear these days, seems like when you hear a racetrack is being sold, you automatically kind of tend to think that, well, it's going to become a insurance,
Subdivision.
whatever,
Yeah.
or subdivision,
Well,
or
and
who
I'll say that
knows.
is that is the concern with dirt track. To me, that's the biggest threat to dirt track racing right now and short track racing. It isn't streaming, keeping fans from coming and all that some folks argue. It's property values outpacing the value, the amount
Business
of what
values.
business value of running a
Right.
racetrack. And I can promise you, weekly racing is not going to beat property values. What's
Mm-mm.
going to beat property values is being able to build
Major
events
events.
like Winter Nationals and like the Super Bowl racing and like the Deep Fried 75, even like those type of events that
Right.
are really big money makers for tracks. And I'm biased, but I don't think streaming is hurting that. I think streaming is helping it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
think I think we have to invest in these tracks, and as great as it would be to invest in weekly racing and help weekly racing grow, and we all want to see that happen because we know it's important. If you're dependent on weekly racing, your track is not going to out the value of your business as a racetrack in 99%. I'll say 90% of racetracks is not going to make it worth more than Copart can come pay for the
Yeah.
property.
Or
It's
a
just not,
builder.
But
or a
but
builder
but
development, right?
but weekly racing is vital to the success, I would say, of a major event. Or
Yeah,
it
but it's
certainly helps to have healthy
weekly
weekly
racing is
racing.
not going to make a track owner $50,000 in one night. And I say
No.
that it sounds like a lot of money. It does, believe me. But they could also lose that much in one.
Yeah.
Not very, very few.
Well,
But
what
we're
I
going down
think, what I
a
see a
side. But
lot of times is a track where they break even all year, and
yep,
then they have that one or two or three big events that carries the track. You know what I
yep,
Yeah.
mean?
exactly.
And that's not a new phenomenon. That's, I think, the way it's been in a lot of cases. Is, a lot of tracks, they lose money or barely break even in their weekly stuff, and they got two or three big events is where they make their money. And what keeps them going. But
Right.
yeah, it's we're a big event oriented society anymore.
Yep.
And I mean, hell, I don't think racers want a weekly race hardly. Like every
It's too
division
much.
has a series.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
We had bang bangers racing for 20 grand last week. You know what I mean?
They tour
That's
now.
very
And
true.
they race for big money all the time. I feel like
Yep.
got their own announcer, series announce. Not only they got a series announcer. The
That's when you know.
Paul Clayton. You know what I
That's
mean?
when
Like,
you know.
but my point there is, like, everybody, a lot of people are like, "Oh, weekly racing's dying and it's streaming that's killing it." And I know it's a problem, right? People stay home and watch a stream on their phone or their TV instead of going to their local track, which I would go to the local track and watch it on my phone at the local track. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people do that. But anyway, I don't think people want to go to the same racetrack week in and week out. They want to, race in big races that are, meaningful, and then and travel around a bit. Yeah, that's just the way it is. Perfect
Marty,
example is Street Stock Nationals.
yep,
Marty
exactly.
Hagwood, very perfect example. Yeah. Like you have guys with street stocks that race 5 or 6 times a year. Like I know local guys here, around us that they'll go out to Southern or Baker wherever just to make sure their car is ready for the Street Stock Nationals. If it wasn't for that,
Right.
they wouldn't even they'd race that 1 or 2 or 3 races and that's it. And that's street stocks. You know what I mean? So anyway, I don't know. That's a whole nother subject there. But how did we even get to that? Oh, East Alabama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
East Al-
I was trying to make a point and we kind of got off track there, but my point is there's this big fear of racetracks closing down and
Mm-hmm.
it's usually, one of these, Copart or, American Auto Auctions, whatever the other name company is. A lot of times buying them, but it's also other developments and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's encouraging that we've now had three um, fairly well-known tracks sell in the Southeast specifically. I think within the past year, and you had East Bay. Well,
East
yeah, that's a
Alabama.
bad example. East
that's a
Alabama,
bad example.
but and to be fair, some of these tracks are just doomed, right? Like they are where they are located. They're eventually going to. They're not going to last as
Somebody's
racetracks.
gonna walk
That's
in there with millions of dollars, and are you gonna
this
blame the
needs to
guy
be a
that's
housing development.
and you gonna blame the
Yeah.
track promoter that's barely getting
Yeah.
by? You know
Yeah.
what were the
Yeah.
other ones that I'm
Um, uh,
drawing a blank?
Golden Isles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
um, Speedway, and Livonia Speedway. All three recently sold, but sold to people who want to continue to operate them and are planning on investing in them as racetracks. And I think that's encouraging. And again, going back to that whole argument about streaming, I don't think, and it's not just streaming, it's big event, being big event oriented as a sport, I think is part of that. They see the opportunity to, this is a smart investment, could make money. It's not a and you're not going to do that with just weekly racing. So I think as a whole, where our industry is um on the business side, it's a very interesting time where we are. And there for a while it was really getting worrying that there were so many tracks selling because the property value was just more than you can make as a business
Mm-hmm.
running a racetrack. And we're finally, hopefully, seeing that coming back around where people are seeing opportunity to invest in racetracks and keep them racetracks and actually make a thriving business out of it. And that's where we need to be as an industry, is how do we continue to build that? Because sitting here and trying to keeping it, the way it was 10, 20 years ago isn't going to do it. I promise you. We're Blockbuster in that scenario when we need to be Netflix, right? So anyway, that's my
Yeah,
rant.
it's a
Netflix.
good analogy. Good analogy. Hey, by the way, thanks Marty for
Good.
the $10. We were on such a roll there, and you had such a good point.